Welcome to or welcome back to the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and it has happened. I've been waiting for the letter that my favorite idiot, Reginald Wayne Miller, would write in response to the default judgment against him in both Jane Doe lawsuits, and it's finally here. He really just can't help himself, can he? Bless his little pea-picking heart. He sent the letter to FITSNews begging them to publish it because no other news outlet would listen to him. So they did. As you might expect, in his letter, Reggie is in full help me, I'm poor mode. If anything, he really is predictable. Let's see what he had to say. Concerning the judgment, I live off a small Social Security check. I own no property except my furniture. I have no savings, and my bank account never exceeds $1,500. I took a vow of poverty when I entered the ministry, and I have given away everything I have over the years and lived by faith these past 10 years since I went off salary. What could have happened around 10 years ago that could have caused him to not take a salary anymore? I remember now. He was in federal prison for student visa fraud because he was basically making the international students at his college do work for little to no pay and feeding them expired food, among other things. And as for taking a vow of poverty, I don't believe you, Captain Kooky. My ministry owns nothing but office furniture, the college library, and a car 13 years old. We have no savings and have paid no salaries for 10 years, with all workers, including me, being volunteers. Our income is just enough to pay rent and give several $100s a month to pay rent on a building for missions. Well, he's just a threadbare, destitute, pathetic man trying to do the Lord's work. It's a shame he's not better at it so he could rake in the big bucks, huh? I'm not sure which car he's talking about. Last year he paid taxes on a 2012 Hyundai and a 2010 Honda. This year it looks like he only has taxes due so far on the 2010 Honda. But if he has a 13-year-old car, that would be the Hyundai. Maybe he's just confused about how many cars he actually has. Since I had nothing for them to take, and since the lawsuit is nothing but lies, I saw no reason to respond. Their first attorney dropped them after a response to these ridiculous claims that I now remember 23 or 25 years ago that this or that happened, when all of the claims are imaginary craziness. Well, sure, because a natural reaction when someone lies about you on a legal document is to just ignore it and not try to defend yourself. I don't even know why anyone ever hires a defense attorney. Also, no one believes that Jane Doe's attorney dropped them. I seem to remember a lot of back and forth about that first attorney not filing the case and dragging their feet. So, if anyone dropped anyone, I would bet a lot of money I don't have that it was the Jane Does dropping the attorney, not the other way around. This is a perfect example of listening to social media that would have you believe that I am a wealthy tycoon, plump for the picking. I am now in my latter years getting ready to go home, and I know that I have a good reputation in heaven, so I am not concerned with the lies here on earth. Well, if I live to be 300 years old, I never want to hear the phrase plump for the picking from Reggie ever again. I am glad that he realizes that he has a total crap reputation on earth, though, and he's so not concerned with the lies on earth, he had to beg a news outlet to make sure that everyone knew how unconcerned he is. Reggie lies like an old, worn-out, moth-eaten rug that smells like mildew and cheap cologne. He can't accept responsibility for anything he's done. Even after he signed a federal plea agreement that everyone can see, he's tried to play down what the charges were. We can all see them, doofus. And I'm not buying the whole help me I'm poor defense. Remember when Reggie preached at Victory Outreach in Florence about 6 months or so ago and bragged about his adopted children and also bragged about receiving a $1 million donation? Have you spent that already, Reggie, or is it just in another person's name? It seems like either he was lying then or he's lying now, so which is it, you little half-witted dolt of a man? Even if Reggie doesn't have money for a settlement, which I think a little forensic digging could prove differently, there are other ways he could make restitution. Ideally, he would admit to all of his past wrongs and genuinely apologize and offer to do whatever he could to improve the lives of both Jane Does. But that's not going to happen. So, in lieu of, I think the harshest punishment for him would be that he would never be allowed to write another letter for the rest of his life. I think he might implode. But Reggie's isn't the only Miller letter floating around the internet lately. No sirree. John Paul Moldy Toes Miller, aka Reggie 2.0, wrote a letter too. I'm not sure where this originated, but there has been the sentiment that it was sent out to multiple former church members. But the letter that is being shared was written to a particular couple. And I'm not sure who redacted the letter, but what was redacted is interesting. I've been able to piece together a couple of phrases because there were parts of letters showing, and I love me a good word puzzle. So one of the phrases that was redacted was "you too," so not exactly anything that would be an identifier. The other phrase that I figured out that was redacted was "your boys." Again, a lot of people have sons, so also not an identifier. It's almost as if the redactor wanted to make this letter seem as though it was meant for multiple people, when in reality, this particular letter went to a certain couple. And if the redactor did purposely make the letter look as though it was more generic, so they could say it was sent to multiple members, I have to wonder why. Yes, John Paul could have rewritten the letter to fit the recipient, but we haven't seen any proof of that, just this one letter. I'm also not convinced this would be considered witness intimidation by any court of law, but I guess the suggestion of such is enough to get people talking, right? But let's take a look at his passive-aggressive piece of scrap he wrote. It's a one-way ticket to Guilt Town. I'm sure you are aware of all the hell that I've been going through since, and even before my wife passed away. My goal is to remain as healthy as I can in my soul, so when the enemy attacks, I strive to handle it in a biblical fashion. Matthew 18 tells us that when a brother or sister sins against us, that we are to go to them and try to win them back and forgive. Out of every single event that has taken place and every single person that has been in my life, nobody has hurt me or sinned against me as horrible as you. Therefore, I'm writing you, redacted, and only you, in order to help heal my soul and in order to help me forgive what you have done. And we are off with a big old dose of guilty and bad grammar. Forgiveness doesn't require two people, by the way. You're a big boy, John Paul. You can do it all on your own. Well, other people can. I'm not sure he has the ability or even the desire to do it. I have lost my children, 750 friends and church members, finances, health, and my wife passed away. Although she is not lost, I know where she is. And out of everything that has happened, I am only devastated and hurt by the redacted you. And this is where "two of" was redacted, so I am only devastated and hurt by the two of you. Again with the grammar, dude. And it's almost like your own actions caused you to lose all of the above. It's kind of how you lost everything in your first divorce, too. No one feels sorry for you because you've made your life exactly what it is. And is he really saying that out of all of those things, losing two friends was worse than Micah dying? That's what he said, right? I thought you were saved. I thought you were New Testament Christians. I thought you had integrity. I thought you loved Jesus and his body. I thought you loved me and my wife. We served you and redacted the very best that we could for several years. We gave to you, spoke highly of you, prayed for you, and did all we could to lead you closer to Jesus. Yet you did not have the decency to even attend my wife's funeral. You turned your back on me and the body of our Lord Jesus Christ without even communicating a reason. You believed the lies of the world over the truth of the Bible. You assumed the worst when love is supposed to believe the best. I have never known a friend who claims to be a Christian to do such horrible things to another friend. My wife served redacted for years, and you couldn't even show up and pay your respects at her funeral. I considered you one of my closest and best friends, and when I needed you the most, you disowned me. God forbid one of redacted ever lose his wife and have the person he expected to be there for him walk away. And that is where your boys was redacted, so God forbid one of your boys ever lose his wife. So this is just a lot more of the guilt trip, and is it just me, or does it seem as though John Paul thinks he might be some kind of supreme being? Maybe a supreme pain in the tuchus. I have done nothing wrong in all of this concerning my wife and my church and my friendship to you. And even if you could find something, Galatians 6:1 says that we are to help gently restore those who fall, not walk away and never speak to them again. I know my wife is in heaven, and I know I did everything a man can do to save her life while she was on earth. But the fact that you would allow gossip, TikTok, internet, worldly news, and who knows what else guide your steps in life over the holy word of God makes me question if you were ever saved in the first place. All I can say is me nor Micah would have ever done that to you or your family. If you have lost redacted, no matter what the world said about you, we would have stuck by you as long and as much as you needed. It's almost like John Paul learned from his father how to deflect and not take any responsibility for his own actions. And the who knows what else is an extra special touch. This leads the reader to possibly think of the absolute worst place they could have gotten their information from, like straight from the lips of Satan. John Paul could have made it a lot shorter by just writing, "Listen to me, not them." As of today, May 28th, 2025, I forgive you and release you to God. I will never speak ill of you, and I will never, ever treat you the way you treated me. I will always be available if you or your family ever needs anything, regardless of how you wronged myself and Micah. Well, thank goodness he's not going to speak ill of you after he just wrote an entire letter doing just that. Maybe he has it all out of his system now. And then he signed it with God bless. Well, God blesses everyone, Tiny Tim. Much like he has many times before, John Paul refers to Micah as his possession and uses my wife 7 times compared to the 2 times he calls her by her name. And he still thinks he owns her. She was your estranged wife, you doink. She was done with you. She wanted rid of you. She was moving on up to the east side, or maybe to Africa, which could also be the east side, depending on what direction you start out on. And stop claiming her as your wife. You can own Susie now. She seems to enjoy being subservient to you, or maybe she only walks 20 steps behind you because she's ashamed to be seen with you in public. The Miller men really are 2 peas in a slimy little pod. They both blame social media for spreading lies, but aren't above using social media to their advantage, or what they think is to their own advantage. It actually ends up being worse for them than if they would just stay off of it and stay home and play the game where you try to make yourself as small as possible. They have to constantly tell people how good they are, how upright and holy, and all of the other sanctimonious claptrap that they spray out of their face holes. But if they would just be decent people, they could stop running their gobs and people would just know by their actions that they were good people. I guess maybe that's just out of reach for them. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.